Hi everyone. So I just woke up, so that's why I still have bedhead and my cup of coffee right there. But I was reading Woman's Spirit Rising again, and I just got inspired to make a video about something that I just had some very basic thoughts about. And that is the importance of the concept of an afterlife in religion, and whether or not we really need it, and whether or not any kind of concept of afterlife can be beneficial towards our experience now in the living world. So I was reading, like I said, Women's Spirit Rising, and it was an essay about spirituality in the Appalachian Mountains or something like that. And she was talking about how the afterlife in Christianity sort of implies that, if things aren't really going well right now, then at least we have heaven to look forward to. We have those castles in the sky that eventually will be for everyone who believes in God. For the pitiful and for the poor and for the oppressed and everyone. And it got me thinking about that, and I don't really like that idea, and I do actually see that a lot in Christianity and in general in a lot of religions that stress the importance of an afterlife. There seem to be some consequences of that in the living world that are justified by whatever their belief is and what comes after. So I want to talk about Christianity first, and then I'll move on a little bit. But it does seem to be a little bit of a argument killer, this idea of the afterlife, specifically in Christianity, this idea of heaven, this idea that mortality is our punishment for the original sin, and we have to essentially burn off our sins before we die, and toil in order to prove ourselves. And that pain and that punishment and that sorrow is just a natural course of life, and we just have to accept it because, like I said, this is our punishment. This is how we prepare for the next stage and for the riches that we will reap. And the difficulty with this is that, of course, if you're a Christian, you would just automatically believe that that's possible. But the problem is that not everyone's Christian, and not everyone believes that afterlife exists or is capable of existing. And so these people who every day are suffering because of either things that they can't help or situations that they've been put in, skin color, gender, simply just the fact that we live in a capitalistic society and not everyone is going to be able to be rich and successful just because of the way that the world is working right now. For those people, there might not be a reward in the end for that. They're just suffering, and they're going to suffer, and then they're going to die, and then nothing's going to happen afterwards. And that sucks. It really sucks. And in that way, that kind of belief system sort of cuts, or it really challenges the idea of sanctity of life. You hear, I'm just going to be rambling right now, I'm sorry, but you hear comments a lot from Christians where, well, it's in God's hands, or, well, she's with God now after someone has passed away, or things like that. And they come a lot after major events. Recently, we just had that awful shooting, and that was a lot of life that was lost then. And there's no justifying that situation. There's no making that situation better. There is only anger and a passion to fix whatever it is that caused it. That should be what you're feeling. But instead, I feel like people become complacent with the world. They think, well, this is just part of God's plan. All those people, it was just their time to go be with God, or whatever it is, whatever spiritual justification you can find for that situation, it makes you complacent. It makes you feel as though things are falling into place. This is the way that it's supposed to go, almost like a different kind of fate, if you will. When the fact of the matter is that people died, and there are very specific reasons as to why and how they died. and there are specific ways that we can go about fixing them, or at least making them a little bit better. And I think that deity can be a very important part of this process, but it cannot be all of the process, because personally I feel like divinity works through us, not for us. And so if you rely on this concept of God to sort of fix all of your problems for you, while you sort of remain back and maybe do some praying or something like that, I just don't think that that's how that's going to work. And especially not if you think that, well, the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket anyway. It's all leading up to this dramatic idea of Armageddon and the end of the world, as if the world is just going to get progressively worse until finally God takes pity on us and transports the good to heaven and the evil to hell. That kind of ideology does not work in regards to fixing the mortal realm. It is about transcending the mortal realm. Like I mentioned, I think in my last video, that concept of Transcendentism is very prevalent in Christianity, as if this life that we have now, this organic, ephemeral life, is just a blink of an eye, which it is. But that because of that, it doesn't really matter, because heaven comes afterwards, and that's eternity. So whatever happens now doesn't really matter, as long as you get into heaven and reap your rewards. So yeah, and especially in regards to, I don't even know if I've finished my last thought, but especially in regards to a lot of the oppression that I personally feel like the Bible supports, especially in relationship to women. A lot of churches teach that if a woman obeys her husband and is subservient, her place in the world sucks. Like, sucks for her that she had to be made a woman and has to, take on the sins of Eve and work those sins off, essentially, throughout her life. That sucks, but at least she gets to go to heaven, and in heaven we're all equals, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, why can't we be equals now? Why can't that be something that we work towards now while we're living? And I'm sure that there are a lot of Christians who feel that way. I know a few who are very, very much involved, at least verbally, in regards to social justice and trying to fight for people's rights. But I think the majority, or at least it's a very prevalent sort of thought process, I think, within that community. And I think similar thought processes, I don't know, affect lots of different people from lots of different religions, and it's not just Christianity. If you look at reincarnation, and it's certainly not across the board that people feel this way, but if you look at certain countries in which the idea of reincarnation occurs, there are things such as the caste system, which, because they believe that if you're good in your past life, if you learned the right lessons, if you worked really hard, then in your next life you'll be in a better position. And that if you didn't do that, then you're going to be in a worse situation, and it's basically just your punishment. And so it gives a lot of people what they feel is the right to treat other people badly because, well, they deserve it because they did something awful in their past life or whatever. And this is just another example of this concept of afterlife really mucking things up for the mortal realm and for who we are and what we're doing as living beings. What else would there be? I can't think of any other examples of an afterlife. I'm sure that there's others. I would get into like ancient Greek beliefs about the afterlife, but I mean, it just isn't relevant right now. I know that there are a lot of pagans who believe in an afterlife. I know a lot of Wiccans do. They have this kind of vague belief in Summerland, and I guess that's fine. I don't know if I've really thought over how that could be affecting people. I'm assuming it must have similar effects as to the Christian belief in heaven. It's a similar kind of concept of, if you're really good, then you're going to go to this beautiful place and live there for eternity, or whatever the idea is. It's a reward for if you've been good during your living life. And Other pagans, I think that there are a lot of pagans who are okay with the idea that there might not be an afterlife. I think there are a lot of pagans who certainly believe in the idea of reincarnation, but in regards to less of like the soul transcending and and more of the body transcending itself into being part of the organic process of death to life, of decomposing, so that other things can live. But I think most people, myself included, are really okay with the idea that the afterlife might not exist. And I think that these people are... I think that this... I just personally think that the idea of an afterlife is usually pretty damaging. There could be a right way to do it. I'm certain that a lot of individuals probably believe in the afterlife in a perfectly fine way. But I think on a global scale, it can be pretty damaging for just social relationships and the world in general. And I think that if the idea of an afterlife isn't guaranteed, it allows one to really appreciate the fact that we're living here and now, and to really appreciate the fact that people are suffering and hurting right now, right here. And it doesn't matter what happens afterwards, because right now they are in pain and they need help. It creates an urgency, I think, to fix what we are, which is there's obviously a lot of good in humanity, but it's pretty damaged in a lot of other ways. And especially, I think it creates this urgency to fix what is happening right now, especially if you are part of this goddess religion that sort of identifies divinity with the earth. And within everyone, it creates an importance there, and even the most mundane things. And I'm sure that you can probably find this kind of urgency to fix the world in other religions, that's perfectly possible. But I do think that this idea of an afterlife can ultimately ruin that. Yeah. So, I don't know. That was a big rambled mess, but I guess I'm done. So thank you guys for listening to me. Yeah, have a good night. Or day. It's day. I don't usually make videos during the day, but yeah, have a good day.